Hello guys, it's Assistant Professor Nimesh Das here from LG Institute of Engineering and Technology. Now the today's session that we'll discuss is conductivities of metal and band theory of solid. So let's begin. So now the expression of the electrical conductivity when we gain to derive it. So electrons experience a force in the presence of the electric field due to which they accelerate. Obviously, initially they were in the random position and the moment they were provided the electric field due to which they have got some energy and that energy converted into the acceleration. So technically we can write it F equals to E into E, where small e is electric charge and capital E is the field applied. From that the force exerted is also can be written as mass into acceleration. Okay, so this both from that acceleration equals to, we are equating the two terms of force, that is A, that is we are making a subject, E into capital E upon M. So now in the presence of the electric field, electrons get drifted in the opposite direction and the velocity acquired by them is given as Vd equals to acceleration into tau. That is the mean time. Now why it happens? Because in whatever the electron, we know that the field is applied in just opposite direction, your electron will be accelerated. Why? Again that positive and negative. So current flows from negative to positive. Okay. So basically what happens? It flows from negative to positive and okay. So this is why the electric field is going, or you can say that electrons get drifted in the opposite direction. That is the reason, that is velocity Vd is equal to acceleration into tau. Now so Vd can be also written, now see we are replacing that acceleration term down. So Vd equals to E into E tau upon M. So now the current density would be given as J equals to EVD. Now we know that what would be the next step? Obviously the next step would be substituting the value of the drift velocity that we get. So now the current density J equals to NE square tau capital E upon M. But we have also get that J equals to conductivity into electric field. Again, that is nothing but the definition of conductivity. Conductivity equals to J by E. So now on comparing that, we get conductivity equals to NE square tau by M. So this is the first that we have derived while deriving the equation. After that, based on the kinetic theory of gases, now why we are saying that? Because in the first assumption of the free electron theory, it has been said that the molecules will behave as gas. So based on that theory of gases, the kinetic theory of gases can be defined as 1 by 2 mv square equals to 3 by 2 kBt. Okay, where kb, see we know what is m and what is v. Okay, but what is kb? It's a Boltzmann constant and t stands for temperature at the sea. Now so now we are replacing the equation. Okay, so we are taking the entire term or in the term of m and we are replacing that m. So when we are replacing that m, we are getting now final conductivity equals to Ne square lambda V upon 3 kBt, where this is the electrical conductivity that we have derived. Now similarly we will be also having a thermal conductivity. Now in thermal conductivity, it is said or it is defined as the rate of the heat flow across a unit area conductor per unit temperature gradient is called as thermal conductivity. So now that is the definition for the same. We can see it in the figure. You can see that one plate is at the higher temperature and the another plate is the lower temperature. So naturally the flow would be from the higher to the lower temperature thing. Okay, and the distance between them, it is shown as d, that is the distance. Okay, so when it is the distance d and the flow changes, and this difference in the temperature is also called as a temperature gradient. Okay, so from that we can say that K equals to, or the thermal conductivity equals to Q dash upon area A into bracket dt, differentiate of dt by dx, where this x is nothing but the distance. Okay, so now its unit is nothing but watt per meter Kelvin. After the thermal conductivity, now we'll be defining or we'll be deriving the same way as we derive the expression for the electrical conductivity. Okay, so we will now get the derivation part. So in that derivation part, first would be the assumption. We are assuming that a metallic rod AB is there. Okay, so surface A and above surface is B. In that, A surface is having a temperature T. It is denoted, and the surface B would be having the T minus dt. So from this we can say that it is minus. So the lower temperature and surface would be having a higher temperature compared to the surface B. So naturally we know that the flow would be from the higher to lower, that is surface A to surface B. And the difference between them, the distance, is denoted by lambda. So electrons conduct from A to B naturally. Why? Because from the higher level temperature or the higher temperature to the lower temperature. So now the average kinetic energy of electrons by the surface A is 3 by 2 kBt. Okay, and at surface B would be 3 by 2 kB T minus dt. So this word T minus dt, we are just replacing the temperature, because the surface A temperature is T and the surface B temperature is T minus dt, that is the lower temperature. Okay, now where is that assumption? A number of electrons moving from A to B in unit time is 1 by 6 number of the electrons into V. Okay, but how this 1 by 6 came? So when electron is moving, it can move in the multiple axes. How? X minus x, that is 2, then y minus y, that is 4, then z minus z. So in that coordinates, it has got total 6 coordinates, but as it is moving in just one direction, the probability would be 1 by 6 in V. So now by multiplying this 1 by t probability to the A and B point, we will get 1 by 4. So when we are considering the transfer of energy from A point to the B point, it would be 1 by 4 NV into 3 kBt. Okay, but how it is there or how it is achieved? So how we are multiplying it? 1 by 6 NV into 3 by 2 kBt, and there you are getting the result. Okay, that is 1 by 4. That is from A to B. Now when we are considering a deficiency at the energy level B, so compared to A, so when we are comparing the two things, why? Because the A is at a higher temperature gradient, and compared to that B would be having the deficiency in the temperature. So we are just notifying the deficiency in the terms of minus 1 by 4 NV kB dt. So the rate of the heat flow is net energy now transfer. Now the net energy transfer from A to B per unit area would be the difference between these 2 points. Okay, and that can be notified as Q equals to 1 by 4 NVKB dt minus of minus 1 by 4 NVKB dt. Okay, where it will be giving this minus will turn into the plus 1 by 4, 1 by 4, that will become half. So half NVKB dt. Now moving forward, but the thermal conductivity equals to K equals to Q upon dt by dx. Here we know that x that we were assuming the distance would be lambda there. So we'll be replacing the lambda out there. Okay. So now we are just replacing the term of Q that we have derived, that is 1 by 2 NVKB dt upon dt by lambda instead of dx. So this what we are getting the thermal conductivity as half NV kB lambda, where kB is the Boltzmann constant and lambda, that is a new term, is nothing but the distance between the 2 points. Okay, so this we have derived the thermal conductivity one the same. Now from that the few terms are there, that is the thermal resistance. So what is the thermal resistance? It is the temperature drop per unit heat flow. Obviously when we go with the electrical resistance, what was dropping? The electric or the flow of electrons. Okay, so electrical energy was dropping down. Okay, similarly when we are going with the thermal resistance, naturally what would be dropping? The temperature would be dropping. Okay, so temperature drop per unit heat flow is given as thermal resistance. Okay, and RT is denoted as 1 by Ka and its unit is Kelvin per watt. So now when we go with the Weidmann-French law, so Weidmann-French law, it states that the ratio of the thermal to electrical conductivity is directly proportional to absolute temperature. So it gives you the ratio for the same. So K by conductivity equals to LT. L equals to Lorentz number, that is 2.44 into 10 raised to minus 8 watt ohm per Kelvin square. So this is your Weidmann-French law. After discussing the thermal and the electrical conductivity and the derivation for the same, now we will discuss the band theory of solids. So now band theory of the solids starts with formation of energy bands. Now how the energy bands are formed? The grouping of the different energy level is called as the energy band. So individually we have got energy levels, and when we are grouping them together, that would be forming a particular energy band. Now how it is achieved? So individual atoms are there. Now we know that when the individual atoms are there, at the center we have got nuclei. Okay, in that we have got the protons and neutrons, and in the surrounding we have got the electrons for the same. So with respect to that electrons level, we have got the energy levels for the same. Okay, now that diagram that has been shown down there is nothing but with respect to the each and every energy levels. Okay, so this is in the context of the single atom. But when we consider a crystalline solids of metals, there are multiple atoms together. Altogether means side by side there are multiple atoms are there. So each and every would be having the energy level. So now each and every energy levels of all the atoms are bundled out together, and you can see that there is the range of the energy levels, or you can also say that the collective band of the energy levels. Okay, so this is how we are getting the energy band. Individual, when we are taking, we are having an individual atom, and with respect to that single energy levels are there where the electrons are actually residing. But when we are taking in concern of the crystalline solid, at that time it would be the collective band. So in that band, how the energy bands are actually formed? Okay, so basically when the two isolated atoms are brought close to each other, what happens? See, from the nucleus, the outermost electron is comparatively slowly, or you can say that it is not that strong bond, it is a weaker bond. So that electron can also interact with the multiple other electrons. Okay, so now what happens? As the electrons comes near the nuclei, its bond increases or it becomes strong. So now what happens? You can see in the diagram on this one side, you can see that there is splitted ends are there. Okay, why that splitted end is there? That are nothing but the energy states in solid with tightly bound atoms. Okay, and the another side, the two energy levels of the isolated atoms are there. So you can just see that what happens when the two electrons are interacting at the outermost orbit with each other. Okay, so that would be having the comparatively higher energy levels. Okay, or you can also say that it is a splitted versions, but as it goes nearer it would be having more attraction towards the nuclei, hence it would be interacting with the other electrons less. This is how the energy bands are actually formed. Now from this energy bands we can also go with the types of the energy bands. Now which are those types? First is the valence band. So valence band usually are almost filled bands, and they are always at the bottom side of the all means when we consider that overall energy bands, so valence band would be positioning at the bottom. Okay, and they are having all electrons filled in its entire bands, or you can say that in that individual energy levels they have got all the electrons filled up, so they are almost filled. After that, we have got the conduction band. So conduction band is the band which is almost unfilled, and whenever you give the sufficient energy to the valence band, it will go from valence band electrons to the conduction band. Then another energy is provided, then slowly and gradually it will move, and then electron will start flowing. Okay, so you can say that the conduction band is nothing but the foundation, or it is a barrier between the free electron and the atomic structure. Okay, so now you can imagine that valence band is fully filled. Okay, but the conduction bands are unfilled. How? If you provide the sufficient energy, that all will go to the valence band, to the conduction band, and slowly and gradually it will move forward, and then at last it will become a free electron. After that, we have got the forbidden band. What is the forbidden band? It is basically the difference of energy level or energy gap between the valence and the conduction band. So now you can see the overall picture. Valence band, fully filled, forbidden gap. This may vary with respect to the material, and then you have got the conduction band. So these are the types of the energy bands on the basis of which the material would be justifying its properties. So now we can see that the classification of the solids. Now solids can be classified into first metals. Now metals are very good conductors. Okay, why it is so? Because the forbidden gap between these metals of the valence band and the conduction band is almost negligible, or you can also say sometimes it is overlapping each other. So technically there is no foundation or there is no forbidden energy gap, or you can also show that there is no barrier between the valence band and conduction band. Hence, by providing little bit of energy, your electrons can easily go from valence band to conduction band. Now comes the middle part, semiconductor. In semiconductor, this forbidden gap increases slightly. Okay, not it is not like just metals that it is overlapping, but there is, you can see that small forbidden gap is there. So that forbidden gap amount of energy when you provide to the valence band electrons, it will be going from valence band to the conduction band. Okay, so that's why it is known as semiconductors. Why? Because it partially conducts. How? The amount of the energy, if it is provided, it will be provided to the electrons in the valence band, and that will go in the conduction band. After that, there is an insulator. Now, insulator technically it is said that the electrons cannot flow. No, the forbidden gap is such high that it becomes difficult for them to be maintained. So, if you provide the sufficient energy from electron from valence band to the conduction band, they can easily go from the valence band to conduction band, but that energy gap is very high. Okay, and it is very difficult to achieve. So there is a misconception that in insulator electrons will never flow. No, it can flow, but the forbidden gap is very high. So to maintain this energy of forbidden gap becomes very difficult. So this are insulators. So now from the diagrams you can see that metals can easily conduct, insulator is difficult to conduct, semiconductor partially conducts with a minimum forbidden gap. So that's all for the lecture. Hope so you guys have understood it. Thank you.